Have you ever done something that you regret, something that maybe was embarrassing to you, maybe something that hurt someone's feelings? Of course you have. You are human. But let's go beyond just that little something. Maybe you've made some decisions that have really affected a lot of people and has really altered the course in your life in some way. And to this day, no matter how many years ago it was, that still comes up in your memory and kind of haunts you from time to time. Maybe it's something that brings about shame or guilt that you've been living with. Well, today we're going to talk about how we become free of our past. No more shame, no more guilt. We're going to walk in freedom. Listen, you are human. It's time you stop beating yourself up. So stay tuned and let's jump into the video. This is Steve, the Traveling Gringo, and I am here to tell you it is time. The time is now to get rid of the shame, to get rid of the guilt, to get rid of that low vibrational energy and move into love, move into freedom, and really living a life that you truly do want to live. Listen, we've all done things that we regret. That's a part of the human experience. Understand who you are. You have perfect spiritual DNA. You are just living a human experience. And in that humanity is where we make some mistakes. But let's kind of quantify what those mistakes really are. Those mistakes are needed for us to learn the lessons that we need to learn on this human experience. And so if everything went our way, if everything we did was perfect, we wouldn't grow, we wouldn't learn. And so some of these mistakes are needed for our own journey. We often, talk about, or you hear motivational speakers talk about things like, here's an obstacle, you got to jump over it or go around it, or you got to bust through that obstacle to get to your goal. Well, what if that obstacle is a part of your path? What if that's not an external obstacle? What if that obstacle is something that's needed for you to become the person that you need to become? Listen, I'll be the first person to acknowledge that I've done a lot of things I regret. I've done a lot of dumb things in my life, things that I almost go, what in the world was I even thinking? Or why did I allow myself to get put in that position? And there's even some things that you still pay the consequences for. In other words, there's things that maybe affected relationships that will never be the same. So all those are bad things, they're horrible things. They're also things that can continue to creep into our mind. You see, the reality is this: is your mind controlling you, or are you controlling your mind? Your mind is a great servant, but I'll tell you, it is a horrible, horrible master. So if you're anything like me, here's what happens. It's something that happened maybe even, 5 years ago, 10, 20 years ago, maybe something happened, something that you don't think about regularly, but there's times it comes up, it triggers, and it sends you down kind of an emotional hole, if you will, an emotional funnel where it just drains you and you're still living with that guilt and shame. And you're just thinking, how in the world could I have ever done that? Listen, it first of all starts with forgiveness of oneself. But forgiveness is not a one-time act. Whether you're forgiving yourself or maybe, the thing that haunts you of your past is something that someone else has done to you, or maybe something that someone else has done, but you kind of take responsibility for. Listen, it's about forgiveness, but then when that emotion arises again, or that thought arises again, there's two ways that you can kind of handle that thought. Let's just use a different example. I say, I'm hungry. Well, I'm in the middle of something right now. I'm going to finish what I'm doing, and then I'll go get something to eat. Thought's done, completed. I move on with what it is I want to do. Or I can go, man, I'm hungry. I think I want to eat. What would I like to eat? Maybe I should go to a restaurant. Should I go home and cook something? What restaurant should I go to? What should I eat? And pretty soon that thought takes me down an entire path of distraction. And that's what it is I'm talking about. We can't control a thought pops into my head. Wow, I remember what happened 20 years ago. But I can then choose what I do with the thought. I can either say, you know what, I've forgiven myself of that and move beyond it. And I'm done. I let it go. I observe the thought. Or I can allow that thought to take me down that pigeonhole where I really dwell on that thought and creates an emotional response. And then I have to go through that forgiveness process again. Now, I like to use something known as Ho'oponopono. I've done other videos on Ho'oponopono. I've done meditations on it. I'll put those links in the description. But Ho'oponopono is basically a Hawaiian mantra that says, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And that's a mantra that I like to utilize. Again, if you want to know how to use Ho'oponopono, check out one of those other videos. But the second part of that is really learning to be present, learning how to be in this moment. You know, they talk about how depression is really one who is overly focused on the past. So your memory is taking control of you. Anxiety is about one who's overly focused on the future. In other words, your imagination is taking control over you. So the negative feelings are about parts of your own mental faculty that are taking control of you rather than you taking control of your own mind. And so as we practice taking control of our own mind, and as we practice learning, living in the present, that's when we can get rid of the depressions, we can get rid of the anxieties, we can get rid of the emotional swings, and truly live in freedom. Think about this. In this moment right now, I have no problems. My problems are when I think about the dumb garbage from the past, or my problems are about when I'm worried about the future. If I can just stay focused in this present moment, I'm out here in nature. My dog is jumping on my lap, so when you see my camera shake, you know why. And so right now, life is absolutely perfect. I have no issues. Now, does that mean we don't focus on our future? No, you set aside time to think and to plan and to grow and do all those different things. But that's not 24 hours a day. My mind doesn't need to be consumed with this stuff. I remember years ago, I had some friends that smoked a lot of weed, and I'm not judging what one does or doesn't do, good or bad. It's not for me. That's okay. But I remember I think, why you guys do this, man? And the response was always the same. They said, I need something to shut my mind off. I need to shut my brain off so I quit just thinking and torturing myself all the time. And I can understand that rationale. But I think a better way to do that is just to learn not to torture yourself. You can learn to be in this present moment. You can learn to choose the thoughts that you hang on to and learn to allow the other thoughts to pass you by. And a great way to do that, of course, is through meditation. Okay, so let me summarize this all up for you. One is you've got to have some kind of forgiveness practice. When those thoughts come up, instead of going down that path, it's an instantaneous, I forgive that individual who hurt me, or I forgive myself. So number one is forgiveness. Forgiveness is not a one-time act, it's a continual thing. But the moment that past thought, the moment those things come up, it's about forgiveness. Two, it's also understanding about what mistakes really are. When you understand our purpose and who we are a manifestation of God. We are God created us. Infinite intelligence, source energy is creating life so that it can understand itself, if you will. And so when you begin to awaken and understand who you truly are, you understand the great I am that I am. When you understand those concepts, okay, we understand who we are. Now we understand that those mistakes are really needed for my own growth. I've got to do life has to have some difficulties. Life has to have some, quote, suffering so that I will pursue infinite intelligence. So I will pursue source, which is the purpose of my existence. If I was born into this world and never had any form of issue, I would never discover who I truly am. It's through the difficulty, it's through the suffering, it's through the torment that I begin to learn who I truly am. And then when I know that, I can transcend the suffering. I don't have to continue to suffer. I can become free of it. But it's about understanding who I truly am. So one, we got to learn forgiveness. Two, we have to understand who we are. And then three, we want to begin to control our own mindset, our own thinking. Again, not the initial thought that comes into my head. I can't necessarily control every thought that I have. I can control what I do with the thought. I can immediately go into forgiveness. I can immediately dismiss it. I can watch it fly by. Or I can dwell on it. I can allow it to take me down that rabbit hole that just sucks my energy and puts me on a very low vibrational frequency of guilt and shame. And I'll tell you what, there's no lower vibration of any emotion than guilt and shame. And so when we're living in those emotions, life just is not good. But I'll tell you, you can be free of it. I'm actually going to create another meditation to go along with this that will actually help with this understanding and teaching to really get grounded in the great I am of who you are and becoming free of your past once and for all. I'll tell you what, life is meant to be lived abundantly. It's meant to be lived joyfully. I am joy. I am peace. I am love. I am abundance. I am wealth. I am happy. That's how life is truly meant to be lived, because we've gone through the suffering and we've discovered who we truly are. So I hope this benefit was a help to you. If it was, smash that like button. If you know somebody that needs to hear this message, make sure you share that video with them. And as always, if you want more of this type of information, be sure to subscribe to the channel. With that, much love, peace, God bless. Namaste.